I'm Geoffrey Peckham, and I chair the U.S. Technical Advisory Group to the international standards having to do with graphical symbols. We're here at the Design Department of Delft University to discuss the standardization of graphical symbols. Between sessions, I spent a few minutes in a busy hall with several of our key committee members in the hope of giving you an appreciation for the topic of symbol standardization and how we're literally inventing a new language that's global in nature and independent of words. Here's Barry Gray, our chairman.
In this day and age, people, of course, move around the world much more for pleasure, in tourism, whether you see the signs at the airports or in the railway station or even in the shopping mall. If you can recognise what the symbol means, it doesn't matter what the language is. If you're working in an environment where there is risk, if you can recognise the graphical symbols which tell you what those risks are and understand them quickly, simply, goodness me, that's good news for everybody. And if you're moving from one country to another, you see the same symbols, you know the same dangers. And it's the same in your vehicle. If you see on your dashboard or wherever the same graphical symbols, wherever the car is made, wherever the tractor's made, it doesn't really matter.
In some cases, not being able to understand instructions and the symbols that go on instructions can have dire consequences. Here's Jeremy Foster.
We've had a case some years ago where an aircraft ran into trouble because the person dealing with the shutting of the doors didn't understand the symbols that instructed them on how to do it.
With the recent earthquake and tsunami in Japan that devastated the coastline and killed thousands, graphical symbols played a significant role, and it's a role that we need to consider worldwide. Is Japan taking any steps towards improving signage systems with regards to tsunamis?
The incredible tsunami attacked us, so that we have to think about the use of symbols or hazard map more critical.
How would the symbols help people who are fleeing a tsunami?
One of the symbols means escape point from tsunami. It means high place or high buildings. If people see a tsunami symbol, or if people studied before the tsunami, people know where to escape, they escape easily.
Graphical symbols don't always communicate issues having to do with life and death. They can also be about information that needs to be communicated on a daily basis, like accessibility symbols.
It's a service to all people, really, that we use the same symbol and not different variants that is hard to understand.
As you know, Japan has become the eldest country in the world. So we have to take care not only elderly people, but also many injured people to help their transportation, as well as their life priority symbols helped us to help each other.
Standardization in graphical symbols is a logical response to the increased growth in trade and travel. Caterpillar is the world's largest manufacturer of construction and mining equipment. Here's Chuck Crowell, a key member of our committee, and he understands graphical symbols and how they play a role in safety.
You never know sometimes when a piece of machinery goes someplace to be used that it's going to stay in that location. And then if it moves across country boundaries to some place where they don't have the same language, or even within the same country that they don't have the same language, the graphical symbol makes it easier.
If the user cannot understand the word, they will mistake to use, control the products. That sometimes gives a damage to the user. Graphical symbol will be easy to understand.
So in a certain sense, you're creating a whole language that's independent of words, and it's based on symbols.
Very much so. It is a new language independent of words. Symbols convey a message to all sorts of people, particularly actually people who have perhaps cognitive difficulties. They'll understand a symbol much quicker than they'll understand a set of words, as we all will. If you're looking across a big area, you see a nice big symbol up there, you know where the toilets are very quickly. You don't need to look to lots of directional signs or other information. You can glance around, you see what you want to see. And that can apply in the small scale as well as the large scale.
Creating a new language without words has its own challenges.
It's quite simple to denote certain things. This is a fire extinguisher, this is the emergency exit. It's when you get to the rather more complicated things, do this and don't do that, that it can become more difficult, more complicated. And so when you're trying to describe a series of things rather than just one thing, then life becomes much more difficult. It's easy to use symbols for nouns, much difficult for verbs and adjectives and adverbs and things of that kind.
Precision and consistency are key when you're trying to communicate a message. This is why ISO TC 145's work is essential.
It puts them all on a similar footing so that people will say, well, that's a human figure because it's drawn the same way in this area and some different area. If there were different line weights or different arrows used or different ways of presenting a human body, it would make it that much more difficult for people to be able to, at first glance, understand the message.
Of course, it makes no sense to reinvent the wheel. In many cases, we're building on work that's already been done.
There were some very well-established standards bodies, ANSI in America, DIN in Germany, and BSI in Britain. But a lot of the work we do, of course, is based on their experience. And we can call on the development of standards in those sort of countries and others that have already done a lot of work. For example, I think the warning sign that we use as an emergency exit, enormous amount of work and development was done in Japan to get the best symbol to help people exit buildings in an emergency.
Building on the ISO standards work, industries can develop symbols for their own specific needs.
There will always be ongoing specific work done as different industries or different sectors recognize either new processes or new controls to be done or new messages to be sent.
So what's the process? How does standardization actually work?
One of the developments in the recent years has been the enormous amount of extra testing that has been done, thanks, I must say, very much to the Japanese and the Koreans, who have supported this very strongly and taken on board the view that if you have a symbol that you can demonstrate communicates successfully, then it's better than one that you can't demonstrate. The banking organisations decided that they needed a symbol which would be recognised around the world. They suggested a number of possible alternative designs. And so we tested them. We asked people, what do you think this symbol means? And there were various versions of it, with and without coins and notes and different ways of denoting currency, the dollar sign, the yen sign, things like that. We eventually found the one which was most successful in that more people can recognise what it meant than the alternative designs. And that basically is the way in which standardisation and testing works. You're trying to find the thing that communicates most clearly to the majority of people.
It is a laborious process, but that equally is good in one way, because what it means is that we do involve people beyond their own committee members. They go back to their different countries, whether or not it's Japan, whether it's the US, the UK, Germany, all sorts of countries across the world with different cultures. We go to Korea, we go to China. We involve people, but beyond our committee. We don't cover everything in our committee. We haven't got knowledge of every aspect of the world, but people out there do, and so they can contribute to it.
For global standardization to occur, nations must understand its value and voluntarily adopt the ISO standards.
Is England adopting the ISO standards, and why are they?
Yeah, we are adopting the international symbols in the UK because we are part of the global economy, but also because they are good symbols. They have been well researched across the world. We've had input from lots of nations and lots of cultures, and I think that helps. We've got lots of cultures in the UK. It helps the understanding and it helps the consistency. And people from the UK go abroad more and more often these days. And equally, we welcome people from other countries, both for work purposes and, of course, as tourism.
The Swedish standard only has 33 symbols at this point. So companies in Sweden or anyone who wants to use the symbols wants more, of course. So then we say that they can buy the ISO standard too.
If a Japanese standard keep our own standard, that will become difficult to export or import products.
It's in industry's best interest to do that because we want people to recognize these things almost instantaneously.
More and more across Europe countries are adopting the international standard ISO 7010 as a national standard, because we recognise the additional work that's gone into it and the quality of the design work.
And it's compounding. You know, the more progress there is, the faster it comes. It seems to be sort of exponential in that sense, which is gratifying. You think, yes, we are making progress, and making progress more and faster as the years go by.
And the result of that progress will be?
Well, hopefully increased satisfaction for everybody in terms of successful communication being made, decreased cost, decreased accidents. I see no downside.
We're making life easier for people, first of all. Hopefully we're making life safer for people, because if people see this sort of common language of symbols across the nations, across the world, they're more confident, they're more relaxed.
Right.
If you provide things that people understand in an airport, it just takes that level of tension down. If you're in the business of actually getting people out of a building in an emergency, if they see the signs that they understand in a consistent way, presented to them, they're going to be confident that they're going the right way, they're doing the right thing, and they're less likely to panic.
The world is connected, and it's been exciting to see the adoption of ISO standards. If you're looking to develop effective sign systems that communicate across language barriers, use standardized graphical symbols. Keep people safe and aware of their surroundings.